Monica.
So just a little housekeeping before we get started. You will be muted through the webinar, but if you have any questions or comments, please use the chat box. I will be responding throughout the webinar, and I will be moderating the webinar today and happy to answer any questions at the end of the webinar for you. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first of 4 webinars in this series, Leading Through Crisis. Thank you for being with us, and we're going to get started. So I am Monika Jadeszko. I am the VP of Global Carnet Operations here at Boomerang Carnets. We will be hearing from Andy Shiles, who is the Chief Operating Officer here at Boomerang Carnets, and my boss. And Rachel Pisani, business strategist with Pisani Recruiting and Marketing. So welcome everyone.
Awesome, thank you Monica. Thanks for joining us everybody. I'd like to just take a couple seconds here. If you can use your chat box. I'm Rachel. I do business consulting for companies and international trade recruiting and marketing. So I'm going to join the Boomerang call here today and just go through a few items that I think might be able to help you as we move through this crisis that we're all in. If you could take just a minute and in your chat box, type in what kind of industry you're in. What kind of industry are you serving today? I know that we have some production. We also have some event and trade show companies on here, some logistics companies. Just type in kind of what industry you're in, and you can see you can respond to either just the panelists or you can respond to everybody. So if you want to just send it to the panelists, that's fine. Great. Fashion and sports, defense, high tech, high-end musical instrument manufacturing, photography. That's awesome. Mobile service company, manufacturing, logistics. That's awesome. As we get started, thank you. This is great. Service manager for Alpha Technologies, great. Wonderful. As we get started, I just want to remind you, in the invitation, you were able to sign up for a free 30-minute consultation if you attend. Monica is going to put up a link in the chat box, and all you have to do is click on the link or copy that link into your URL, and you'll be able to actually sign up for a consultation with one of us following this webinar. We're going to do 30-minute consultations with individual companies so that you get one-on-one help and expertise from Boomerang as well as from myself. And so if you're interested in signing up for a consultation throughout this webinar or after the webinar, you can click on that link or you can copy that link into your URL. And we would love to spend a few minutes with you just understanding your business, understanding where you're at today, and how we might be able to help you move forward. So I am so glad that you joined us. I'm going to speak to you about some business steps that we can take while navigating through this crisis that we're all experiencing today, and specifically 3 steps. One is research, one is rebounding, and one is recovering. So my first question is, what does your business look like today? I don't know, if you can type in the chat, tell me how many of you are football fans out there. How many football fans do I have out there? Just type in your favorite football team, if you will. Let me know who you follow. Pats, okay. Patriots, Bears, Rams, Kansas City Chiefs, Browns, 49ers. Are you really a Titans fan? Sorry, did I say that out loud? Did I say that out loud? Sorry. Lions, okay, that's great. So if you guys are football fans, Harley, thanks, Pats, okay, Lions. If you're football fans, then you would know what a pivot looks like. Everybody know what a pivot looks like? I have a 9-year-old little boy. His name's LJ. He plays basketball and football. Actually, he plays any sport that you'll let him play. But I go to his basketball games and his football games. And it's amazing to me, week after week, I watch these little 9-year-old kids running around. And one little change, one little tweak, one little pivot actually can change the entire outcome of the game. And I'm reminded of the game with the Raiders. If you guys remember, do you remember Patterson? He caught the ball at the opposite end zone. He caught the ball. He dropped it, picked it up, looked like he was going to run, and he did a small little pivot. And when he did that pivot, he took that ball down 93 yards and scored the winning goal. It was a little tiny pivot, but just like in football, in business, if we make a little pivot, a little change, it can change the entire outcome of the game. It can change the entire outcome of the end result. So the receiver, you know, they look like they're surrounded by the offense, and all of a sudden he pivots and he takes the ball to the end zone. It happens again and again. The coach calls the play, you have practice, you study all these strategies, and then when you're in the middle of the heat of the battle, when you're in the middle of the game, you have to make an in-the-moment decision to actually change the direction that you're going. And sometimes it's like that in business. So the situation may look daunting. Challenges may come up that you've never incurred before. I mean, I don't ever remember in my lifetime this happening to this scale, right? I don't think any of us can. I don't think it's ever in history. We've never not been able to travel or not been able to send things where we want to send them or have the production that we want to have. So right now is a time when we really have to start looking at things in a different way. Today you may ask, like, what do you do in the middle of a crisis? Before you answer, let's look at some businesses. I want to take some businesses in the next few minutes. We'll look at some businesses that have actually gone through these crises. And not only did they essentially make a pivot during the crises, change their business plan, but they didn't just survive, they didn't just tread water, they actually thrived. And later on, they created the market that they were trying to survive in. They own it. Some of them leapfrogged the competition, others dominated the market themselves. But companies large and small, whether you're a startup, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a one-person organization, whether you're a contractor that works on production sets, none of us are spared from what's happening today. It's affecting all of us. So we have to remember that in the midst of a recession or in the midst of a crisis, sometimes we have to throw out the business plan. We have to throw out what we originally thought. And we have to say, I know the crisis is a terrible thing, but necessity is the mother of all innovation. Innovation and creativity comes out of necessity. Most companies that we see today have either come out of something that was tragic, something that was necessary, or something that drove demand, right? Scarcity drives entrepreneurship. So what are the companies that took opportunity and they found it in the midst of a crisis and they made a pivot? They created something that would last for generations. You can see on the screen, all of you will recognize these names. Let's just look at 2 or 3 of these, right? In 2001, Apple had been around since the 70s, and it transformed itself during the dot-com crash. In the early 2000s, in the wake of 9/11, Steve Jobs launched the iPod. And he launched the iPod, and now, in the middle of the crisis, he created something, he innovated, he decided to send something out there. They invested during a downturn. And now today, Apple owns 47% of the market share in the premium smartphone segment. I mean, most of us have an iPhone or an iPad or a MacBook, right? We can't go anywhere without seeing Apple. Netflix is probably one of my favorite stories. Does anybody know the story of Netflix? Just give me a thumbs up or type yes. Netflix is one of my favorite stories. They were founded in the years leading up to the dot-com bubble, and it had struggled to gain momentum. It had worked really hard to get to the point that they had gotten to, and the owners decided to go to a company and see if they could get bought. And they had a $50 million price tag. And the company rebuffed them. They said, nope, we're not going to buy you. Does anybody know the company that they went to? The company they went to is called Blockbuster. Blockbuster decided not to buy Netflix. And so Netflix didn't have any other choice. They couldn't just throw in the towel. They didn't have an exit strategy. You're right, Corinna. Yep, John, you're right. They didn't have an exit strategy, so what did they have to do? They went back to the wheel, and they created and decided to transform itself into a streaming on-demand consumer video. Now, today, Blockbuster is non-existent, right? Netflix not only took and created something new, but they dominated the market that they were in. MailChimp is a great example of what businesses do during a crisis. MailChimp actually was built focused on large corporate clients. So they were selling CRMs to large corporate clients. That's how they made their money, annual subscription hosting fees and implementations. And in the 2000s, when the Great Recession hit, they were forced to pivot. There's that word again. They were forced to pivot and change the direction of their business model. They didn't change their service or their product, but they changed the business model and the service offering, how they offered it to their clients. And when they did that, they decided to add an initial free to paid subscription and open it up to everybody. So today, where they used to have 85,000 clients, now they have 500,000 clients using MailChimp. They not only survived, but they dominate their space right now. We can go on and talk about different ones. The companies that risked and thrived in the toughest of times, they should inspire us and remind us that with hardship comes opportunity. So your tenacity and your passion and your commitment comes with success and making sure that you stay in the game. Bob, you want to, I don't know, did you move that yet or not? So let's talk about the 3 steps that we can take by looking at companies like this. What did they do and how can we rebound? How can we recover? Let's start with research. We need to lead our employees and our competitors and our clients. I believe that it starts with research. I believe that if we start researching the right things, we will be able to move forward and tweak or pivot our plans so that we can survive and get through this. The COVID-19 global crisis continues to disrupt our supply chains. We understand as international and global markets we deal with every day, it's changing. And this, of course, has raised new and unprecedented questions and levels of resilience of the global value chain. So facing up to these disruptions requires new forms of collaboration across companies and across industries. We can't just look at what we're doing any longer. We need to research. We need to research not just tools, but we need to start with the industry markets and trends. They mentioned it earlier. Europe is opening up and lessening their restrictions quicker than the US is right now, right? That's an opportunity. If we're looking at industry markets and trends, we can look at countries, we can look at different areas that are opening. We can look at industries that are opening. How are we servicing those industries that are getting back into the game quicker? We should be researching markets and trends. What services are scarce right now? What services are needed? How can you service those industries? How can we just change up what we're doing to actually still do business and survive and get through this? We also need to research tools. So how many of you guys
Hold on 1 second.
how many of you guys use Zoom on a regular basis? Just type in, yes, Monica and Andy, we use Zoom every day. Yeah, a lot of people are using Zoom on a regular basis. We use Zoom for meetings, but Zoom can be used for a lot more than just a webinar. Google Meetings, Google Hangouts can be used for a lot more than just in-house meetings between staff. So what management tools are you using? What are the tools that other industries are using? What are the tools, right, Cassie, Teams as well. You can use it with your clients. I just read an article about virtual events. And of course, we all like the swag that we get at events. It's always hilarious to me. People walk through the trade shows or the events and they carry a bag and they literally like, you know, put 3 and 4 of each piece of swag into the bag. And my kids would kill me if I came home and didn't bring something for them. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that. But it's not just the swag that makes those conferences important for us. It's the networking. It's the conversations that you're having with other people. It's the sharing of ideas, the speakers that you get to hear. You can do virtual conferences just like that. You can even do virtual swag, right? And you can use some of these technologies to do that. So we have to think outside of the box. We need to research opportunities. What is the hidden opportunity that you can uniquely fill? Whether it's a talent, whether it's a service or a product. Are your competitors taking calls 24/7? Have you changed your office hours? Are you supporting people in a bigger way than you were before? Or have you backtracked? Have you retracted what you're doing? It's amazing to me that a lot of companies are saying they're working harder now than they were when you were actually in the office. I spoke to Andy a couple days ago, and he said, man, I haven't stopped, you know, since 8 o'clock this morning, and it's 10 o'clock at night. And I think a lot of companies are seeing that. We need to look at those opportunities and say, hey, my competitors are still doing 9 to 5. Look at Best Buy. Best Buy is doing curbside. I could have called Best Buy 2 months ago, and I would have never gotten anyone to answer the phone, ever. Now I call Best Buy, they answer the phone within a couple of rings. They will go pick up the products for me and they will bring them to my car. That is a service that I'm willing to pay premium for. It also differentiates them from every other company out there that's not doing it. I went through the drive-thru, my kids love Chick-fil-A, right? Chick-fil-A is serving through the drive-thru. I just went through the drive-thru a few days ago and saw they have big signs and they said family meals curbside, chicken parmesan. Seriously, Chick-fil-A is serving chicken parmesan family meals. They have a little box with kits. That's innovative, right? They're saying, hey, all of these other restaurants can do what they want to do, but we're going to be innovative. We're going to create, we're going to do something different. And there's a demand for people that need more than just chicken nuggets, right? So they're making a little tweak, a little pivot, but it's going to make a big difference. What if you're an orchestra and you can't travel right now? Your events have been canceled. Have you ever considered doing a virtual event? How many virtual events do you see online from symphonies or orchestras? I don't know if you follow it, but I love that, Ethan. You're playing a virtual recital tonight. I love that. See, people are becoming creative. I work with a number of churches, and many churches are doing this. They're actually speaking and playing music in empty buildings that seat 2,000 or 3,000 people. They're still sitting on the stage, 2 or 3 of them. They're playing the music, and they're live streaming this. And they're live streaming, so where on Sundays, they would normally have 2,000 or 3,000 people in their audience, maybe. Now they're live streaming, and they're getting 25,000, 30,000 people, not just in their community, but all over the world. So, Cassie, right, yours is too, right? You see it. People are doing drive-ins. So instead of doing where people are coming into an actual auditorium, You could do a drive-in recital or a drive-in symphony. This is a way that you can reach people that you otherwise may never have reached. But we have to think outside of the box. So what are the opportunities that you're missing because you're only looking at one way of doing business? We can sit and we can say, hey, you know what? I just can't do it. I've tried, I've failed and failed. I can't do it, but, or we can say failure and setbacks are only final if we fail to get back on our feet and try again. So I want to talk to you about trying again. We've talked about research. We're looking at other areas. We're not just looking at our own industries. We're looking at other industries. There are companies that are, I mentioned churches. Churches are distributing food. They're not a food distribution center, but now they're doing drive-in clinics. They're doing testing. They're using their facilities for other purposes and other services. Why? Because they're reaching their communities. So how can we use what we have, our talents, our facilities, our office space, our teams? How can we use that to actually still get in front of our clients, our prospective clients, our prospective audiences? Let's talk about failure and rebounding. Are you with me so far, everybody? You can still hear me? Take some notes, because what you can research after you've decided what you're going to research and you've looked at some of those things, it will lead you into rebounding. When we talk about rebounding, there's a great book out. It's called Another Shot. One of my favorite business authors, Dr. Dave Martin, he wrote a book a few years ago all about rebounding in life, rebounding in business. He coaches professional athletes and top executives, and he wrote this book, and in his book, he talks about rebounding. He talks about Wilt Chamberlain, who was the greatest rebounder of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Moses Malone, Dennis Rodman. You recognize those names, right? They're all household names. We all have heard of them. But why are they so important? What made them really famous? The one thing that they have in common is they were all well known because they were great rebounders. They were paid millions of dollars each year for one specific purpose, and that was to snatch the rebound off the backboard. So why is that position so important? Why is it worth so much to those coaches and those owners? It's because a great rebounder gives his team a second chance to score. Rebounding creates the opportunity for another shot. So simply put, rebounding is the art of successfully gaining possession of the basketball. Andy, you know this, coaching basketball. You've got to box out the competition. I remember when my son would play, they'd be hollering, box him out, box him out. I don't understand basketball, so I don't pretend to, but what I did realize is if he got the ball back, he was going in the right direction. So I don't know, somebody might use their phone. I think some of the phones came off mute. But if you can get the ball back, if you can rebound, you've actually got a chance of winning that game. You've actually got a chance of making that shot and doing it over. And that's what we all need, especially in times like this. We need the opportunity for one more chance. We need to box out the competition. So what are the steps that we can take to rebound? Step number one, communication. Communication is key. Of all the things that we can do to rebound, we have to start with communication. We have to communicate not just to our employees, not just to our existing clients, but we need to communicate to prospective clients. We need to communicate to vendors. We need to communicate to industries. We need to join webinars. We need to let people know that we're still out there. If you're a photographer, we need to let them know, hey, I'm still taking photos. Hey, I'm still in the game. I'm still here. Highlight some of your photography. I'll talk more about how we can do that, but communication is key. Do you have a communications plan that has been rewritten since COVID-19? Are you communicating your next steps? Are you talking to your customers and listening to their needs and their pain points? Are you having one-on-one calls? Are you talking to your employees, listening to their suggestions, keeping people informed? I loved the first question that someone asked when we were first joining this call today. Tina had logged on early, and we were asking where she was calling in from. And the first question she asked is, how are you all doing? How's everyone doing there? And Andy responded and he said, oh, business is great. We haven't laid anybody off. We're, still in the game. And she goes, but how is everyone's health? Right? What she was really saying is, hey, I'm concerned about you, not just your business. That's what people want to do. They want to do business with people that are concerned about them, not just what they can bring to the table, not just the money. Our environment and our communities and our individuals, our mindsets have actually shifted during this time. And if you'll notice, people are appreciating that one-on-one more and more. The more you can communicate, the easier it will be for you to rebound. Because when things start opening up, the people that you took the time to communicate with are going to remember you. They're going to say, hey, they were there in my time of need. If you've ever been in a hospital and you've had to spend any length of time in a hospital, you remember every person that came to visit you. If you ever had to be laying on your back recovering from surgery, you remember the people that actually took the time to call and say, hey, how are you doing? Or, hey, I'm going to send you a meal. Or I'm going to bring you a magazine to read, or bring you some music to listen to. You remember those people because they took the time to care. They took the time to communicate and talk to you. So step 2 in rebounding, how can you communicate? How can you enhance those business relationships? We talked about it earlier, webinars, virtual meetings, emails, calls. I don't say just do this in a shotgun approach. I say this strategically plan outreach, what we call outreach. Strategically plan that. Make sure that you're reaching out to your clients. You're reaching out to people that are prospective clients. Reach out to your team. Just like in basketball, we must use our team. You've got to pass the ball. You've got to reach out to them. We can't do this alone. Your employees are your team, but your clients are your team as well. Your customers are your team. Your vendors are your team. Have you reached out to your vendors to find out what their ramp up time looks like, when they're getting back in the game, what that looks like for you? It's important to reach out to all of them. This is the most critical time to utilize your email lists. If you have email lists that you have not been using, we have to get those email lists working. We need to start sending out emails and communicating. Give them content. If you play an instrument, send an email with a video clip of you playing. Use unique and different ways of communicating with your clients. If you're a photographer, send them a new portfolio via email. Hey, have you seen my most recent shots? Or remember when we could actually go to a park? This is, what it looked like when we were all hanging out at the park, or when we were able to do photo shoots. By dedicating time to calling your customers one by one. I had a client, and 2 weeks into the COVID-19 shutdown, they made a decision to contact every single customer that they had personally with a phone call. When was the last time you actually got a phone call, not just an email, or not just an e-blast, or not just an invitation to a webinar, but an actual phone call from someone that said, hey, how are you doing? How are you handling this? It's important to give them that one-on-one. So use this time to reach out to them and really enhance your business relationship. Another way that we can rebound is by increasing our social media presence. While a decrease in face-to-face interactions or inbound calls could be a detriment to your business, using this time of social distancing to improve alternative methods of communication will help you connect to your prospective clients, your vendors, consumers. When you commit purposeful time to setting up and improving your social media presence, you will significantly improve your customer appeal, and you're setting your business up for success. Right now, you should be creating content, whether it's a talent, whether it's an art, whether it's a production. You should be creating content for your customers and for your audience. You should be growing your social media platforms, not decreasing them. Throw a virtual client party. Host an online Q&A. Conduct a meeting with small groups. Create client focus groups. If you don't work with a large team, maybe you get all of your vendors together and create a vendor team, a vendor focus group. Hey, as an industry, how are we going to get out of this? Who's going to open up first? How are we going to work together? If anyone doubts the power of social media, no matter what your politics are, you cannot doubt the power of a tweet. Twitter is powerful. And whether we like it or not, and whether we'd like to take the phones away from some of those people that tweet, it is powerful. Use it for your business. Use it for something constructive. Use it for something positive. The last way that we can rebound is serving through other channels. So what channels are you using today? What channels do your customers use on a regular basis? I always think it's funny, we tend to use channels of communication or channels of distribution that we're familiar with and we're comfortable with. But it's really not what we're comfortable with, it's what are our clients comfortable with? What are they using? Do you have a 24-hour hotline? Do your competitors have a 24-hour hotline? Do you have content that you're putting out on your website talking about events that you can do? I just saw a comedian. He gets paid to do live events at trade shows and conferences. And they go in and they pay him to do, you know, an hour set of juggling and comedy. And one of my clients reached out to him and said, hey, would you be interested in doing a virtual comedy night? And sure enough, he said, sure, yeah, absolutely. He's literally doing a stand-up comedy show virtually. He's still doing it. I work with a lot of public speakers. Public speakers, their events are canceled. I talked to, just this morning, we talked about someone that's doing events and trade shows and productions. There are no more events happening, right? You can do this virtually. Reach out to people, highlight what you're doing, and create other opportunities, create other channels to get in front of people. Focus increased efforts into making it easier for your customers to connect with you during this isolation time. If you do, they will be there when you come out of this. You will be able to rebound. You can use new channels to connect with your clients and with your audiences, and you will recover. So what does it look like to recover? When you recover, you actually adapt to change. You can't recover until you say, okay, here we are, this is what we're dealing with, and this is how we're going to get out of it. You can't recover whether it's an injury physically or whether it's an injury in business or whether it's an economic downturn. You can't recover until you acknowledge where you're at and you make a plan to get out of it, to change it. You don't like your circumstances, you have the power to change it. If you properly research the areas that are in need, the industries or the countries or the states that are starting to open up sooner rather than others, and if you're communicating with your existing clients and prospective clients, you can recover. The long-ranging impact of COVID-19 is yet to be seen. We do not know what that looks like. However, we do know that if we can adapt to the changes and we can support it with technology and innovation, the companies that adapt will survive. They will recover. I believe that there are 6 elements that are emerging right now that I see companies taking, leading to ensure their long-term success. Number 1, you must identify what you can do. What is it that you do that nobody else does? What is it that you do that people need? Not just what is it that you do that makes you money. You can make money doing anything. Anything. It's proven. However, what is it that you do that's unique? You must modify and leverage technology and tools. Are you using the right software? Are you using the right tools? Have you thought about ATA Carnets? ATA Carnet is a powerful tool, right? It can help you navigate these uncharted territories. You must also communicate and coordinate with your teams. Like we said, your teams are not just internal teams. Your teams are employees, customers, vendors, industry experts. You've got to effectively communicate and coordinate efforts with them. And then you have to adopt new ways. We must adapt to the changes and adopt new ways of doing business. It's not going to be like it was before. So we've got to adopt new ways, and then we've got to collaborate and share the responsibility of these changes. If we collaborate with others, we can seamlessly move into this new way of doing business, and we can go for the win. If you're going to go for the win, you've got to have a plan. One of the things that we want to do with these 30-minute consultations is to take the time to meet with you to come up with a plan of action for you specifically. We want to talk to you about your business, about how you're doing business, how it's affected your business in every aspect, not just in an ATA Carnet aspect, but how can we help you move your business forward and not just survive, but thrive. Come out of this on top. Take the risk, take the initiative, and you'll take the goal. I really hope that this has helped you in some way. I hope you'll remember these steps. I'm going to turn it over to Andy now. We are going through this together. I'm going to turn it over to him, and I really hope that you'll glean something from this and that you'll take the time to sign up for one of our consultations so that we can actually talk to you one-on-one and spend some time helping you move your business forward.
All right, gang. Thank you, Rachel. And listen, I really appreciate everybody joining our webinar so far. It's my hope that you're gleaning some things from this. There's some good points in here. The one thing I'll tell you just real quick that in my own background, I'm fairly new with Boomerang. I've been on board about 6 weeks ago. But I'm very familiar in the industry and whatnot, and there's a lot of folks on that I know. So again, I appreciate you joining us. The one thing that I will say, Bob, go back a slide there, is one thing is as Rachel mentioned, I used to coach girls basketball. She made a reference to it. It was one of the things I was fortunate to do to stay involved with my daughter, and I would work a lot and whatnot. And instead of playing golf with my buddies or something like that after work and on the weekends, I coached girls basketball. And I learned a lot from that. And one of the things that we do is put together a game plan. We actually became very successful in the teams that we did. Started out in church ball and then wound up going into competitive AAU. We were state champions. Went to nationals, finished in the top 25 several years, and then it even got to the championship level game one year. We lost in the championship, but let me tell you, I don't care if it's the state championship or the national. When you're competing at a championship level game, it is phenomenal to step onto the court. So that said, let me just say this: as we're going through and talking about the recover. Identify what you can do. I want to just do a real quick recap in this. It's basically, I'm talking about going back to the basics. Is you go back to the basics. What is it you do? What is it that you do well? Go back to any time I have taken over a team, I've taken over a different business, different department, whatever. Go back to your fundamentals. What is it that you do? And identify what you do and do it well. Get proficient in that. And build back up on that. Things have changed. You're going to be looking at your researching the opportunities again, back to the research, rebound, and recover. If you see the opportunities out there, there's going to be opportunities. There's going to be businesses that fail. There's no question about it. This has been a bad situation. The difference in this one is the entire globe is in this. And so it's not a case of, everybody's in the same boat you hear. We're all in this together. Okay, great. What are you going to do to differentiate yourself from everybody else. All right, I'm in the same boat as everybody else, but I don't want to stay in that same boat, because there's some that all they're on in there is to go along with the ride. You need to figure out, hey, I want to jump over into a speedboat and get out ahead of everybody. I want to take opportunities to make my employees better and to meet needs that are out there. So you've got to look at things from a standpoint of what can you do different. So you do your research. Then we were talking about the rebound scenario there. In rebounding, the one thing that you're doing, nobody is 100% accurate in their shooting. So you try different things, you take a shot, okay, fine. The rebounding on a court is, as I would say, and forgive the expression, but it's you put a butt in the gut and back up. What's that mean? You got to box out, as Rachel was talking about. You've got to box out your competition. You've got to clear out the lane so that when the ball comes down, it drops in your hands. A lot of people go, when they take a shot, they'll go straight up for the ball, and guess what? If others are boxing you out, they'll box you right out of the way, and the ball goes to them, not to you. So before you're going for that ball, you've got to box out. You got to establish yourself. Here's the point. You do your research. You're looking to see where are the opportunities. Then you've got to back up a minute and say, let me look at my company. Let me look at my situation. I don't care if you're a one-man shop or if you have a company of lots and lots of employees. What is it that you're going to do with this information? Where do you need to now make adjustments? And that's where we start going into becoming proficient in things, where you start looking at using technology. Again, the other thing is as Rachel mentioned, communicating. You win or lose as a team. I always tell my staff already, and I don't need superstars. I want superstars. But I don't need a superstar that is doing so great in one area and then the rest of the team has to struggle. It's another analogy is I want my entire team to cross the finish line together. I don't need somebody out there that crosses the finish line and then waits on everybody else. How do we come alongside everybody? How do we come up and cross that finish line together? So that's as far as what you're looking at. I go back to your basics, look at what you're going to do as far as your rebounding. Rebounds give you a second shot or a third shot, however many times. Or if you're on the other end of the court, a rebound is like somebody else drops the ball or takes a shot and you rebound it or recover that ball. Now you've got the opportunity. What are you going to do with it? And that's where you go through. And again, you're adopting the different ways and all that kind of stuff. As we go through, that's what I've been doing with Boomerang. I've been communicating with my staff. It's been like a tornado coming in through there. Monica and her team and everybody else, they have done a great job. But one of the things I've been looking at is, okay, in this current situation, what do you need to do? Well, yes, you'll have some downtimes. Many of you have downtime right now. So now's the time to get in there and finish up any training that you've been trying to get to. And become proficient in whatever you need to. Clean out what you need to, because when the business comes back, it's going to be like, Katie, bar the door, look out, here it comes. All right, so the point being is that get ready now. You get better in the off season. Well, we're in a sense of an off season. Here's the difference between now and this whole situation has been compared to like the Great Depression. The Great Depression was an economic disaster, but it built up over time and shut things down. And it took a long time to recover. This one happened quickly, and it's going to recover quickly. This was a self-imposed shutdown, not only in the U.S., but all over the world. But as such, just like it went down quickly, it's going to come back quickly. Now, here's the scenario. When you do your research on things, there are going to be businesses that fail. There's going to be others that will file bankruptcy. There will be others that look at it, regroup, and they'll come out of this. There's going to be companies that will cut off some of what they're offering as far as their services and go back to, let me just do these few things. Others, though, there's going to be businesses that will start and be new businesses. And then, obviously then there'll be other companies that will expand their services. We are actually literally have several things underway to expand our services. So the point is I'm getting here is that there's not a right or wrong in all of this. The question is, we're all faced with a challenge. And every one of you here, every one of you knows it. So what do you do about it? So as we're going through and we're looking at this is what we're trying to do, to come along and say, what can we do to help you? This isn't a case where we want to say, yeah, we want to talk about ATA Carnets, but we want to also say the best thing is if our clients are successful, then we're going to be successful. The whole point of this is what can we do to help you? Tap our networks. Give some thought to, as you're looking at this, is that what can we do to help you? Now, as we're going through, the other thing is that your attitude determines your altitude. Okay, what's that mean? That's all these cliches and all that, but they actually mean something. Here's the thing. When somebody asks you what you're doing, don't sit there and go, woe is me. We're all in a bad situation, yes. But if you've got employees especially, the scenario is if you're in leadership, you need to set that attitude to where it's like, it's okay. Yes, we are in a tough spot. I'm going to tell you, am I worried about things? Yeah, I get worried about it, but it's not a case where I'm going to go, oh, the sky's falling, I'm suffering from the Chicken Little syndrome. I'm going to go through and say, what can we do? We're going to back up, figure out what we can do, and we're going to move forward. And I'm telling you, folks, our company I've got employees that are hitting on all cylinders. They're doing a fantastic job. And it's like, I can't wait to see what happens in the next few weeks because we've got so many cool things happening. Here's one other thing. If you are on this, that you are, I've heard from photographers, manufacturers, or service providers, like freight forwarders, all that. What can we do to help you? That 30-minute consultation that we're talking about, we want to help you begin putting together a game plan if you don't already have one. That's one of the things that I've gone through, and as I've looked at all the different things, if I was heading into a tournament, I had to put together a game plan assessing what my competition was. That's the research. Who's my competition? What's my environment? Where am I playing? Am I the home team or the away team? What are the strengths of the other team? I look at and then assess, what do I have? Here's my strengths. What do I need to do? I need to work with somebody to improve their skill of boxing out a certain way or defending a left-handed player versus a right-handed player or whatever else. As we're looking through that, and as you go through and look at this, I'm just telling you is that you have your game plan. And then the key is that then Rachel made a statement in there, there's a pivot. Your players your employees, in other words, have to be strong enough and prepared enough so that in the midst of battle, in the midst of a situation, they are empowered to make the changes, make that pivot, make the adjustments. A pivot is nothing more than an adjustment. I have to, as a coach, look at things and go, you know what? I've had my best plans laid out. I have my offense to go up against this defense, but you know what? They have changed their defense or something else has happened and, they're shutting us down. So I need to make an adjustment or a pivot. And as I do that, then I get my team together. And again, the collaboration piece of it, I'm making sure that all my players are on the same page, that we're all running the same thing. If I call a timeout and I bring the players in and I go through and say, okay, here's what I want you to do. And I call a play. One of my players does not agree with that play. They don't see what I'm seeing, but they think they have the answers. But I've got 5 players on the court at a time. We go out there and 4 of my players are running the play, but one of them doesn't. What happens? It all falls apart. There's not any front end, back end part of it any more important than the other. Everybody has a part to play in the company. They all have to be on the same page. We all are going to be very laser focused in what we're doing. We can't afford right now on very slim budgets and revenues being cut out and business being gone. It's like we got to restart things. So all said and done, that's where I want to go and say, okay, guys, here's where we're going. And they have to trust you enough as far as your leadership that they're going to follow through with you. And that comes back to, again, Here's what we've got. You're prepared. You give the confidence to your employees. You know what you want to do, and you may have to try something completely different. But the key thing is that what is it you're trying to accomplish? What is it that will be that win for you? One of the things that we want to talk about then is going to the next thing here, good, is that the use of an ATA Carnet is a tool, is one of the tools that we like. The question here is that we have a pump manufacturer, a financial institution, and an IT security device company. All three of them, what they have in common is they use an ATA Carnet. And all three of these companies were awarded the E award, or for top exporters, by the U.S. government last year. The key there is that one of these is a huge corporation, and another one's somewhat middle of the road, and a third one's a small company. The point being is that they all use it. So what is a Carnet? For those of you that may not understand it full well, it is an ATA Carnet is basically a passport for goods, is where we're at. We can go into other things, but here's the thing that I'm going to tell you from my perspective. It allows you to take goods in and out of a country, duty and tax-free. The key is being efficiency. So what's utilizing an ATA Carnet is where bottom lines, where you're trying to talk to executives and leadership in your own company. It saves you time and money. If you are prepared and you know what to do with an ATA Carnet, you're going to get your goods in and out of a country very efficiently. The other thing is saving money. It helps you from prevents your cash flow from getting hit. So as an example, you take say $3,000, $5,000 worth of equipment, $100,000 worth of equipment, whatever you've got there. If you had to pay duties and taxes on that going into a country, and then you have to request a refund if they allow it out of that country, you're going to get hit with, $1,000, $10,000, whatever the case is, and it's going to be tied up even on the refund, and it may take a year. Here's the other thing. Think of this thing going forward. Government's revenue has been cut to zero or very low. And so as things go on, do you think they're going to be cutting refund checks really quickly? No, they'll hold on to that. So an ATA Carnet is going to be something that will allow you to cost effectively get your goods into a country, get them before buyers, or utilize your equipment for services and all of that. Streamlines the process, eliminates the duties and taxes that we just talked about. You have 87 countries that you're going to be able to use this with. It simplifies this whole thing into one application. So you don't have to go through and do separate entries and different things for every one of the countries. It's a one-shot deal and gives you the whole thing. And the issue there is now you've got an ATA Carnet. Yes, it's a hard copy scenario, but it's something that will take care of things so you don't have to worry about it. Now, all said and done, I would tell you that as we're looking at this, there's other opportunities for us to, y'all are going to like this little story. There's other opportunities that will present you, but the issue here is more of what happens just on the fly. I happen to be, my office used to be across the street from Fox News. And I happened to just walk along there, and Janice Dean, as you can tell, I had her cracking up, and I had no intention of being on television. It was just one of those, somebody had asked a question, and so she walked up, she said, well, hang on a second. And so she stuck a mic in my face, and all of a sudden, there you are. So what would you say if given the opportunity to be on national television? Didn't think much about it. Go back just a second there. I had the cameraman was there, and I thought, okay, well, this isn't too bad. Well, then the cameraman actually moved and came, and there was literally a camera just about stuck in my face. So it rattled me, and that's the thing is that if I wasn't prepared for that, and here's the thing, you've got to get prepared. You know what's hilarious? It looks like it's funny, and again, I had her laughing over something I had said that and she asked me about the weather or something. I said, yeah, like in New York, it'll change about quicker than 2 shakes of a dog's leg or something. She was cracking up over it. And she said, do you want to say anything or say hello to anybody at home? I said hello to myself. I said, hello, Andy and Amy. And no, I said, wait a minute, I'm Andy. That doesn't work. Had them all, rattled. And the point being, I wasn't prepared for that. So it goes through, and we had a good laugh over the whole thing. So, all right, look, the thing I want you to do is give serious thought. I don't care if you're a one-person shop, if you are a service provider, if you work for somebody else or utilize somebody else, we're offering you a 30-minute consultation. The deal there is we're not trying to sell you on anything. We're just trying to get some more information so that we can help you put together a game plan. In this scenario, I'm a big one is if you help, Zig Ziglar used to say this, if you help enough other people get what they want, they will help you get what you want. And the point being is not from a manipulation, but more of if we can assist you, then you're going to be on your way. If you're successful, we're all going to be successful. So all said and done, I want to tell you, I really, really appreciate everybody's on this. And I guess we now need to turn back over to Monica.
Well, thank you, Andy and Rachel, and thank you to everyone that has joined us today. Unfortunately, we ran out of time to take some questions, but if you have any questions, please email us, give us a call. We'll be happy to answer them. We will also do some follow-up after the webinar. And be safe, stay healthy, and I hope we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.